Hello, this is Manish Patel from the EIA Capital Group. Today is March 27, 2011. This is our weekly Ichimoku analysis for the global markets where we cover everything from the US to Asia to Europe and so forth. Okay, here's our normal disclaimer. All charts are either in Thinkorswim, TradeStation, or FreeStockCharts.com. Here are my contact details. You can follow us on Ichimoku Trading, or you could access any of our free videos on eiacapital.com. Okay, so let's go and start looking at the global markets right away. Okay, and I'm just going to shrink this guy down. Now we're going to start off with Europe. You notice let's change this to weekly as we normally do. And if you look at the weekly time frame is concerned, we had our major pullback. It went all the way to the Cajuns and held the Cajuns in at 6,750, and now we're going higher. This thing has got to break and close above 7,000 in order for this to sit there and go retest a high. Right now, it does look like it's trying to do that, but we're at a major resistance level from right now. So we got to wait and see what happens as far as the Frankfurt market is concerned in Germany. Remember, that's being the most bullish compared to all the European countries out there. If you look at Paris, the pullback was a lot more severe than the German market because it went all the way to the top of the cloud here. And then it's pulled back and it's moved up here. It still looks very, weaker compared to the German market as far as this concerned. But Paris is right now just they're consolidating. London, a little stronger than the Paris market, but still weaker than the German market. As you could see, it's at a major it's at a major resistance level too right now, which has got to break the 6,000 level in order to get to 6,100. Okay. Let's go to Israel. Israel, you could see it is in a state of conflict right now here as far as the charts are concerned, so there's no real opportunity there. If you look at Turkey, Turkey's basically gotten to the top of the cloud, bounced there, and is just hanging around at the top of the cloud. But there's no opportunities really there to trade at all right now. South Africa, if you look here, nothing really. It's just consolidating, completely going sideways. Remember, Russia, seasonally, Russia does the well this month. As you can see, that is doing really good as far as the ETF is concerned right now. So Russia is leading, is very strong right now as far as all the countries in the world. Okay, let's go over to Asia. If you go look at Shanghai, Shanghai is now starting to move up, and the momentum indicator is kind of weak right now, and kind of things are a little flipped as far as the Tinkers and Cajuns are concerned. But it's starting to get some momentum and starting to break out of its consolidation pattern, which is good. I have a feeling it's going to get to about 3,000 very fast, and then it's going to sit there and hold at 3,000 for a little while. And then after that, we'll probably break it and go retest these highs. But China does seem like it's starting to get some momentum to start moving out, especially since the Japan got hit and their market's taking a big hit. So it seems like a lot of money is now starting to flow into the China market. Hong Kong market, you could see there's nothing really there. It's below the Tinkinson and the Cajuns, so there's nothing there at all. Nikkei, as you could see, a big movement down, a little pullback here. But this is still bearish now. The sentiment completely changed to bearish in 1 week. Indian market, you could see, got to the cloud. It's bounced off the cloud here. The key thing is it's got to sit there and hold, 19,187. At that point, it's unknown what's going to happen. But my guess is it's going to sit there and go to 19,100 very fast, possibly this week or next week. And then it's going to have a hard time trying to break for that 19,100 level. Australian market, it's still consolidating, but it's starting to get some momentum and start pushing upwards, but it's still consolidating, so there's no long-term picture there as far as that's concerned. Mexico index, if you look at the ETF, basically it's still very strong. It's at a major resistance level right now. The question is what's going to happen. Brazil, it's basically hanging around on top of the cloud. Really has not done anything here. It's got to get to the cadence and break that to start a bullish trade going forward. I think next it's still got probably about a month to 2 weeks before it could even start a trend if it starts moving up now. Okay, so let's go over to the U.S. markets and let's start looking at their charts. And remember, in all the charts, the Dow basically has been leading forward. Okay. Now, before we do that, I'm going to quickly show you something. Let's go over here. And this is a percentage-based chart from the very beginning of the year. And you could see what the markets are doing right now as far as they're concerned. Basically, right now, if you look at this right here, the green line right there is basically a Dow futures. Then you got the ES futures and then the NASDAQ futures. And you can see right now, right now as of the beginning of this year, basically the Dow futures are leading by being up 5.6%. The ES is right after that at 3.9, and the NASDAQ is basically at 3.8. So you can kind of see exactly what those are right now as far as percentage wise and how these things have moved. Let me shrink this down a little. You could see that when the markets did take a hit, right, the NASDAQ took the biggest hit completely. It went down all the way down to negative 2% for the year and then started to move up. So if you look at it, they're still trailing the way they are. But remember how we were talking about hedging and going long the Dow futures and shorting the NASDAQ? Last year it was the opposite, where we went long NASDAQ and shorted basically the S&P mini futures because that was weak. So if you look at the Dow charts right now, if you look at the weekly, went all the way to the Kijun, bounced off that, went above the Tinkinson, is now holding the Tinkinson. So the 11,915 is a key support for the Dow futures as far as it's concerned. If you look at the daily, there's some conflict here. This thing really needs to pull back in order to start moving forward. My guess is it'll probably pull back to about 12,000, which is a whole number, and then start to take off and break 12,181. And once it does that, it's going to sit there and possibly sit there and retest the highs. If you look at the ES futures, which is right after that, again, this is a weekly bullish trend. That's basically the price. It did a medium pullback, and then now it's pretty much broken up to the upside above the Tinkinson, and basically the major support is 1292 now. As far as this future is concerned, again on the daily needs a pullback before it can start moving. So my guess is it's going to come down to about 1292, hold its ground there, and then start making its move up. So that's my guess there, what's going to happen there. But this does look a little weaker compared to the Dow. And if you look at the NASDAQ, same boat as far as the weekly is concerned. And if you look here, it's not even out of the top of the cloud at all. In fact, this really needs a major pullback. The next support level it has is around 1293, and what it does there. But the NASDAQ does have a possibility coming all the way down to about 2182 again, but we have to wait and see. But this is the weaker of all the other futures out there, so you can do pairs trading with it. If you look at the Russell futures, this believe it or not is the strongest of all of them, but I'll still hesitate in trading this and going long. But if you look at the weekly, bullish trending is kind of at the top already. The daily is still very strong. It needs a minor pullback, not a major pullback like the others, in order for this thing to keep on going forward. But small caps do seem like they're very strong right now. But remember, Russell could sit there and flip very easily, whereas those three other futures doesn't happen to do that. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next